This is the first of a series of reflections on the scriptures set in the Book of Common Prayer for the Sundays in Lent, and then on the climacteric events of Holy Week leading up through Maundy Thursday, Good Friday and Holy Saturday to Easter Day itself. I think the best way to prepare would be to read out loud and very slowly the scriptures set for each Sunday. Tomorrow is Septuagesima, and the epistle is taken from Paul's first letter to the Christians of Corinth, the 9th chapter, beginning at verse 24, running the race. And then the Gospel is taken from the 20th chapter of Matthew, beginning at verse 1, it's never too late to start. So this Sunday we begin the countdown to the festival of Easter, the celebration of the resurrection of Jesus Christ, the heart of the whole Christian year. In the prayer book, this Sunday is called Septuagesima. The word means 70, and this has caused confusion since we are in fact 64 days before Easter. Quinquagesima, in a fortnight's time, is, as the word suggests, exactly 50 days before Easter. And I can only think that just like the preparation before some rocket launch, the church calendar alerts us to the approach of Lent proper and the need to make preparations by counting down 7, 6, 5. Those who value the prayer book tradition might reflect on the difficulty with which the ancient structure of the church year was preserved for use by members of the Church of England, because religious festivals of all kinds were outlawed during the Commonwealth. In 1647, for example, the Long Parliament issued an ordinance confirming the abolition of the Feast of Christmas. But when the ban on the prayer book was lifted in 1660, there was still a determined attempt to exclude what the Presbyterians called the observation of Lent as a religious fast. And we can thank Peter Gunning, later Bishop of Chichester, and then Ely, for his book on the Lenten fast, which comprehensively demolished the opposition at the Savoy Conference and secured the inclusion of this and the following Sundays in the 1662 Book of Common Prayer. The underlying objection to the practice of presenting the events of Christ's life, death, and resurrection in an annual dramatic cycle of feast and fast seems to be a rather binary view of life. You are either one of the elect, or you're to be counted among the worldlings. On the contrary, I think most of us would say that it's truer to experience that we all have glimpses of the way to truth and life, but that such intimations easily fade, choked by the weeds and thorns, the busyness and anxieties of life. And we all need regular occasions for spring cleaning and reducing the clutter that accumulates as the years go by. And our experience is also that when everything is carnival, with no ensuing Lent, we get sick, and even feasting loses its appeal. This year, of course, with restrictions and lockdowns which have largely confined ancients like me to the house for months on end, you might argue that we've had an excess of mortification and a deficit of celebration. And it's been especially hard for those who live alone and don't see anyone for days on end. But it's also been a time when all kinds of anxieties, usually covered up by the daily round or by the availability of various kinds of distraction, come inescapably into view. Memories of old quarrels surface, memories of opportunities wasted, memories of times when we've been unkind and destructive, memories of betrayals, either our own or on the part of other people, which we've neither forgotten nor forgiven. It doesn't take long in the silence and isolation for such things to come into the mind, and in headaches and in worry, vaguely life leaks away. As the poet W.H. Auden asks in his long poem, The Age of Anxiety, does yourself like mine taste of untruth? Then again, perhaps in a break from hectic activity or towards the end of a working life, there's a haunting question which forces itself upon us. What does it all mean? Have I just been killing time until the eventual reckoning with death? St. Paul in today's epistle talks about running a race to obtain a prize. And Lent is the journey to Easter, when we celebrate the new life that was opened up once and for all by the resurrection of the Son of God, the new life which is still available to those who are united with Jesus Christ through the Holy Spirit. In any race, it's vital to know the destination and the nature of the prize. Death will come to us all. But when it comes, the prize is that it will have been transformed for the believer by the death and resurrection of Christ. Death will no longer be a full stop or the ultimate revelation of a meaningless life, but a passage, a true Passover into what Jesus promised, life in all its fullness. Most of the time, of course, we live as if Christ is not risen from the dead. We live as if the Easter event has no meaning for us in the day-to-day reality of our lives. Most of the time, we don't live by faith, hope, and love, and the result is that our life becomes old again. And in our dark moments, we can even experience life as a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. And the old life, which has become a habit, is not easily overcome. Jesus was clear that a rich man shall hardly enter into the kingdom of heaven. And even the apostles were exceedingly amazed, saying, "Who then can be saved?" The world, through its various media outlets, says, be happy, affirm yourself, take it easy, follow the broad way. Christ, by contrast, says, take the narrow way, where struggle is the condition of enjoying genuine happiness. We need to turn around. In the past, Lent has sometimes been treated as a modest exercise in abstinence, an exercise rather less arduous than following the road to fitness prescribed by Joe Wicks. And after abstaining from sweets or chocolate for 40 days, we feel justified in resuming our harmless indulgences on Easter Day. This trivialization of the bright springtime of the Christian year can actually do harm by filling us with a sense of spiritual achievement, which is entirely spurious. The Lenten journey from the old to the new life was originally instituted as a serious period of preparation for new Christians in advance of the ceremonies of the Easter Vigil on Holy Saturday. In the early church, this was the climacteric point in the year when candidates were baptized, when they received the gift of the Holy Spirit. And it was the occasion when, for the very first time, new Christians were taught the Lord's Prayer, which then, not as it is now, was the prayer of the fully initiated and committed members of the church. Perhaps this year, for many of us, with such a prolonged experience of our own company, there is an opportunity and an incentive to recapture with the whole church throughout the ages and in all the countries of the world something of the radical character of Christian living and the joy of entering more profoundly into the body of the risen Christ. The prize is clear, and our gospel reading this morning about the labourers in the vineyard provides additional encouragement to ancients like me, or indeed anyone who's tried and failed again and again to turn their lives around. No matter how late it is in our lives, it is never too late to seek the road which leads to life in all its fullness. And so may God bless you as you prepare to set out on this year's journey to Easter. Lent begins properly on Ash Wednesday, but these weeks of countdown, Septuagesima, Sexagesima, Quinquagesima, are a precious and vital breathing space so that we can plan a sustainable Lenten regime on the foundation of clarity about the prize and greater clarity about ourselves. In the deserts of the heart, let the healing fountains start. In the prison of our days, teach the lonely heart to praise.